The night of November 13th, 1942. Ironbottom Sound, off Guadalcanal. The sea is black glass. The air is so humid you can almost drink it. A lone Japanese searchlight sweeps the darkness and locks on. Captain Tameichi Hara, commander of the destroyer Amatsukaze, stands frozen on the open bridge. His hands grip the railing until the metal bites. All around him, the world explodes. American 8-inch and 5-inch shells fall in waterfalls of fire. Water columns rise 50, 60, 80 feet high. Steel fragments scream through the air like tornadoes made of razors. Years later, he will write in his private journal, voice still shaking on the page. They were not shooting at ships. They were trying to kill the ocean itself. 30 seconds. Exactly 30 seconds is all it takes for the heavy cruiser USS San Francisco to empty more 5-inch shells than many Japanese destroyers were allowed to carry for an entire 30-day operation. 2,700 miles to the east at Pearl Harbor, the ammunition ship USS Lassen is already swinging aboard another 15,000-ton cargo of high-explosive death. Enough shells to fight that one night 50 times over and still have crates left for breakfast. Meanwhile, in a dimly lit room in Tokyo, senior Imperial Navy staff officers argue for 4 straight hours over a single question. Can we spare 12 main battery shells per gun for the next reinforcement run to Guadalcanal? They finally agree. 12 is too extravagant. They settle on 8. Captain Hara had seen the first warning 6 months earlier in the Coral Sea. From the carrier Shokaku's island he watched, speechless, as a single American light cruiser fired its 5-inch guns continuously for 3 hours and 57 minutes without ever pausing to reload. One ship, more ammunition than an entire Japanese destroyer squadron. That was the moment he understood. This war is no longer about courage. This is about arithmetic. Cold, brutal, industrial arithmetic. Japanese doctrine was forged in an age of poverty. Every 25mm Type 96 gun crew received the same standing order. Do not open fire beyond 800 meters. Fire 3 to 5 second bursts only. Then cease immediately. Conserve ammunition at all costs. A light carrier like Rujo carried enough 25mm shells for exactly 12 minutes of sustained fire. 12 minutes? And then nothing but the sound of incoming aircraft. American ships could fire for 6, 8, sometimes 10 hours without ever slowing the tempo. The first real proof came in the Java Sea, February 1942. Captain Hara watched the doomed Abda fleet fire 1,620 heavy shells with almost 0 hits. Yet they never stopped. The crippled British cruiser Exeter alone emptied 1,500 8-inch rounds into empty water. More shells than most Japanese heavy cruisers even carried in their magazines. 6 months later, August 7, 1942, U.S. Marines land on Guadalcanal. That same night, Vice Admiral Gunichi Mikawa steams south with 8 cruisers and 1 destroyer. He has enough ammunition for 1 perfect night attack. Exactly 1. Not because he planned it that way, because the ammunition depots at Rabaul were already empty. At Savo Island, he achieves the greatest tactical victory of the entire Pacific War. 4 Allied heavy cruisers sunk, 1 damaged beyond repair, 1,077 American sailors dead, in 37 minutes of pure slaughter. Then he turns north and runs. His chief of staff later confessed, "We did not withdraw because we feared air attack at dawn. We withdrew because every cruiser had fired 90 to 95% of its shells. We literally had nothing left to fight with. At that exact hour, the ammunition ship USS Rainier ties up at Pearl Harbor, carrying more than 5,000 tons in a single voyage. 350,050 caliber, 1.2 million 40 millimeter, 3 million 20 millimeter rounds. More explosive power in one shipload than the entire Imperial Navy would fire in the next 90 days combined. By November, the Japanese nicknamed their desperate resupply runs the Tokyo Express. November 30th, 1942. Rear Admiral Raizo Tanaka takes 8 destroyers south at flank speed. 1,500 drums lashed to every deck. 1,100 drums of rice, 200 drums of medicine, 280 drums of ammunition, 280 for 15,000 starving, malaria-ridden soldiers. That is less ammunition than one American Fletcher-class destroyer expends in 23 minutes of real combat. That same afternoon, USS Fletcher fires 127 5-inch shells at a target sled, just to keep the gun crews sharp. 1943. The gap becomes a canyon. In the American Midwest, the Naval Ammunition Depot at McAllister, Oklahoma, covers 45 square miles, has 207 miles of railroad track, and runs 3 shifts, 24 hours a day. It alone produces more large-caliber naval shells every month than every factory in Japan combined. The Kure Naval Arsenal, the pride of the fleet, struggles to reach 10,000 shells of all types in its best month ever. Toyokawa Naval Arsenal drafts school children, 56,400 workers. Their daily output, 100 shells per 12-hour shift. 100. June 19th to 20th, 1944. The Battle of the Philippine Sea. The Great Marianas Turkey Shoot. Vice Admiral Jisaburo Ozawa sails with 9 carriers and 473 aircraft. Vice Admiral Mark Mitcher waits with 15 fleet carriers, 7 modern battleships, and 956 planes, backed by ammunition ships that never, ever stop unloading. Japanese pilots who lived all describe the same thing. You flew into a wall of fire that never blinked, a wall that never ran out of bullets. Every American 5-inch 38 gun, 15 rounds per minute. Every quadruple 40mm Bofors, 120 rounds per minute. Every single 20mm Oerlikon, 450 rounds per minute. The battleship USS Alabama alone fired 12,000 40mm and 22,000 20mm rounds in 6 hours of continuous combat. Result: 476 Japanese aircraft destroyed. 29 American. Most Japanese planes never even saw the fleet. By 1945, Japan was literally melting its past. 45,000 temple bells, tens of thousands of bronze Buddha statues, family cooking pots, roof tiles, anything made of copper or bronze, taken to factories to be turned into shell casings. One 500-kilogram temple bell produced roughly 2,000 25mm projectiles. An American quadruple 40mm mount fired that many shells in 3 minutes and 40 seconds. August 7, 1945, 1 week before the surrender. Toyokawa Naval Arsenal. A single accidental explosion kills 2,477 workers, most of them 14 and 15-year-old schoolgirls who had been drafted instead of going to high school. American ammunition workers lived in brand-new dormitories, ate steak, eggs, and ice cream 3 times a day, worked 8-hour shifts, and went to the base cinema on Saturday nights. American tacticians invented whole new doctrines around abundance. Admiral Willis Lee perfected area saturation fire. Fill a 10 by 10 mile box with so much steel that nothing inside it can survive. At Surigao Strait, the Japanese battleship force fired fewer than 100 main battery shells in total. The Americans answered with 3,439. When shells became impossible to deliver, Japan turned to kamikaze. Admiral Takejiro Onishi told his pilots openly, "One plane and one pilot now replaces the 100 shells we no longer possess." By late 1944, American codebreakers were reading Japanese ammunition returns in real time. One intercept made Chester Nimitz laugh out loud. The entire combined fleet had only 15% of the 16-inch ammunition required for one single battleship action. American submarines finished the job. They sank 147 ammunition and oil transports, carrying more than 550,000 tons of irreplaceable cargo. The super battleship Yamato sailed on her final mission in April 1945 with exactly half the main battery shells she needed and no air cover at all. When Japan surrendered, the final numbers were merciless. The United States manufactured 47 billion small arms rounds and 4.2 million tons of artillery ammunition with 500,000 workers in 47 giant plants. Japan produced roughly 35 to 40 million shells of all calibers combined for the entire war, less than the United States manufactured in many single months of 1945. American proximity fuses increased kill probability sixfold. Japanese copies failed 3 times out of every 10 shots. To an American sailor, ammunition was infinite. They joked they could declare open season on seagulls and still have magazines left for the next war. To a Japanese sailor, every single shell was counted, weighed, prayed over, and mourned when it was gone. Captain Tameichi Hara, the only Japanese destroyer captain to survive the entire war from Pearl Harbor to Tokyo Bay, stood on the bridge of Yukikaze on September 2nd, 1945, watched the silent 16-inch guns of USS Missouri trained on the ruined city, and finally spoke the sentence he had carried inside for 3 long years. We were not defeated by better admirals or braver sailors. We were defeated by a nation that could produce more ammunition in 4 weeks than the Empire of Japan manufactured in an entire year. The war in the Pacific was decided long before the first Marine ever set foot on Guadalcanal. It was decided in factories, on assembly lines, in railroad sidings stretching across the American Midwest, and in the endless humming magazines of ships that never ever ran out of shells. It was decided by arithmetic, cold, brutal, unforgiving arithmetic.